Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. In today's video we're going to take a look at getting started in Warhammer Age of Sigmar 4th edition with the Soulblight Gravelords using their Spearhead box set as a basis for this force. Today's video is sponsored by Gap Games, a fantastic miniature wargaming store in Queensland, Australia. They stock a wide variety of miniature wargames from all things Games Workshop to some of my personal favourites, Conquest of the Last Argument of Kings, and all things Modifius wargames as well. Use our affiliate code in the link below to help support both this fantastic store and the channel as well. First of all, leading the force is a Vampire Lord. This foot character has 5 health, a 6-inch move, 3+ save, and control score of 2, all pretty standard stuff for what you expect from a foot hero. Its Dynastic Relic Blade has 5 attacks with 3s to hit and wound with Rend 1, damage 2, and the anti-hero +1 Rend ability. This means anytime it attacks a hero, it will get a bonus point of Rend, and it also has crit 2 hits. Anytime a critical hit is rolled on a 6, you will inflict 2 hits rather than just 1. Each of those will need to make a wound roll and have a save roll made for each of them as well. Now the model has a once per turn army ability called Sanguine Blur, where you can roll a dice and on a 3+ remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up anywhere on the battlefield again more than 9-inch from all enemy non-hero units and more than 3-inch from all enemy heroes, so it can go in and sort of assassinate a hero, which is pretty cool if they're sort of left isolated. But it's also a Wizard 1, meaning it gets access to the spells from the Soulblight Gravelords. It's got a Ward 6+, as you expect from a lot of different death armies. And the other cool thing is when this model leads its own regiment as well, it can pretty much take any Soulblight Gravelords units that it wants. The first unit joining this is Blood Knights. Now these are another fantastic vampiric unit we have. They've got 3 health each with a 12-inch move thanks to their cavalry and a 3+ save, which is really nice, and control score of 1. So definitely a much more defensive unit with its save stats, but not necessarily one that's going to hold objective points for you with the rather high point cost mixed with that low control score. Now their Templar weapons do put out some decent damage with 3 attacks each, hitting and wounding on 3s, Rend 1, damage 1, the anti-infantry +1 Rend ability, and charge +1 damage as well, meaning when they charge they'll get a bonus point of damage. So against infantry, when they charge them, you're going to be Rend 2, damage 2, which is pretty solid. You do get a few extra attacks as well from their Nightmares, Hooves, and Teeth as well. Now their first special rule is Riders of Ruin, and this is a passive ability. When the unit moves, it can pass through models in enemy infantry units and can pass through the combat ranges of enemy infantry units, but it cannot end its move in combat unless specified in the ability used. Now, speaking of that, we have any charge phase ability called Trampled to Dust, where you can pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across this turn to be the target and roll a d3. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. So you can do some damage to the units you're moving over as well, which is really cool. Now, they do have access to taking a champion and standard bearer in there. They've got a Ward 6+ as well, and the Vampire keyword, which is incredibly important for our Soulblight Gravelords, is going to allow them to do a little bit of healing throughout the game as well. Next are the Deathrattle Skeletons. We get 20 of these models inside the box set, and these are effectively our cheap infantry that are going to hold the objectives for us. Now they do only have control score of 1, they've got 1 health each, a 4-inch move, and 5+ save. There are 20 of them, and like I said, they are relatively cheap points wise. Ancient weapons have a couple of attacks hitting and wounding on 4s with no Rend damage 1 and no extra abilities, but like I said, these are just there to hold the line. They're not here to be damage dealers, they're here to hold points, to hold the line, to sort of break the enemy upon them with their mass sort of numbers, and then let our other units like the vampiric units we have go and do the real damage. Now they do have Skeleton Legion, which can be used at end of any turn. This allows you to return D3 slain models to the unit. This is pretty cool because obviously with Soulblight Gravelords we can already be returning some models to our units as well. Lastly, in the box set we have some Vargheists. Now this is actually a dual kit, but the other parts of the kit build units for the Flesh Eater Courts faction, and it's just the Vargheists that are part of Soulblight Gravelords. Now this is another vampiric unit. They have 3 attacks each in melee with their Murderous Fangs and Talons, forced to hit, 3 to wound, Rend 1 damage 2, and the crit 2 hits ability. Their stat block is pretty nice with 4 health, a 12-inch move with the fly keyword as well, meaning they can ignore all vertical terrain, and they've got a control score of 1 and a 5+ save. Now, they do have a once per turn army ability during your movement phase called Death's Descent, where if this unit's not in combat, you can remove it from the battlefield and set it up again more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. Another cool ability for you to have access to as well. This is a core keyworded ability as well, but with this, your Vampire Lord, you've got a little bit of extra movement on top of, some fast things like Blood Knights. Your Vampires can really just zip around the table and get to where they need to be. Looking at where to go next, and if you grab a single kit to go for next and fill out the rest of your points, the Bloodseeker Palanquin I think is a really fun option. First of all, 12 health, a 10-inch move and 4+ save control score of 5. This is going to be a really fun centerpiece to paint up for your force as well. Now, it does have a decent amount of attacks in combat. Its Sanguinarch's Stiletto has 5 attacks with 3s to hit and wound, round 1 damage 2 and crit 2 hits. While your Spectral Host Blade also have a bunch of extra attacks as well, though not very high value attacks. The Wall of the Damned is going to subtract 3 from the control scores of enemy units well within 12 inches of this unit. Really cool for helping your vampires take the upper hand in controlling objectives, because you're generally not getting a lot of control with the vampires. But this can help if it's paired alongside your Blood Knights and gets them sort of upping its control score. This with 5 Blood Knights, control score 10, negative to your opponents of 3. Pretty solid controlling. Now, once per battle army, you can use the Promising Concoction, where you can pick up to 3 friendly vampire units hold within 12 inches of this unit and add one to their attacks characteristic of their melee weapons. This is pretty cool because we do have 3 other vampire units. Now, you can always pick this model if you want as well, so we do have, with this in the list, 4 different vampiric units, anything except skeletons. And they'll all get +1 attack, which can really pump up the power of some of those units, especially things like the Vargheists, the Blood Knights, obviously. Now, it is a wizard one itself as well, so it's going to get some spells. It's got a ward 6+, and fly keyword there as well to fly across the battlefield and get to where it needs to be. Something you're going to want to pick up with your force here, considering you have a couple of wizards for the Soulblight Gravelords, is pick up some manifestations. There are 2 separate box sets that you can pick up for the Soulblight Gravelords, Forbidden Power and Malign Sorcery. These are generic ones and offer you a wide variety of different spells and manifestations to use during your games. For our army today in our sample list, we're going to be playing obviously Soulblight Gravelords, but we've gone for the battle formation, the Bacchanal of Blood. Now, this gives us the Aristocracy of the Night passive ability. We add 1 to casting rolls for friendly vampire units that are not in combat, but we also add 1 to wound rolls for friendly vampire units that charge in the same turn. Pretty cool considering we have a lot of vampires in our force. So our first regiment is going to be led by our Vampire Lord, who is our general, and is also going to have the heroic trait Unbending Will. This allows us to pick a friendly Deathrattle or Dead Walker unit with 2 or more models, hold within 12 inches of them, and add d6 to their control score. Speaking of units in this regiment, we then have a unit of Blood Knights, a unit of Skeletons that has been reinforced, and a unit of Vargheists. We then just have a single auxiliary unit alongside this, and that is going to be our Bloodseeker Palanquin. This model's also taken our artifact of power, which is going to be the Shard of Night. This allows the model to ignore modifiers to save rolls for shooting attacks that target it, both positive and negative. But we hope this video was helpful in giving you some ideas and our thoughts on Warhammer Age of Sigmar Spearhead, and that you were able to get some inspiration to start your own force in the game with it. If you have any other questions at all, please comment down below, and while you're there, also don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and join our Discord server to check out all our future Warhammer Age of Sigmar content.